Joining us now, Senate Minority Whip, Senator John Thune. Sir, where do you stand on launching an impeachment inquiry?
Well, Stuart, look, I think that you have to just follow the facts. And obviously, Congress has a role. It's an oversight role, and it's important that it performs that role. And if there are irregularities, things that need to be looked into, they should look into it. So I don't know where it all heads, but I will tell you this. I think that, the Democrats used weaponized impeachment when they had the majority a couple of different times, and this is what happens. It turned about as fair play, and I hate to see impeachment getting weaponized and used in this fashion. I would rather that we change the direction of the country by winning elections, and that's what I'm going to be focused on. But obviously, if there's wrongdoing, if there were laws that were broken, if there's something that reaches the threshold in the Constitution of high crimes and misdemeanors, I think you just have to follow the facts and see where they go. But at this point, my view is this is a very early on to make any judgments about whether or not they ought to move forward with any kind of a proceeding.
Senator, we're approaching 1 year of Bidenomics and the Inflation Reduction Act. In your opinion, is it working?
It's not. I mean, when he came out and announced that Bidenomics is working, all of us were scratching our heads going, what part? The 16.6% increase in inflation since he's taken office, the $10,000 a year more that it's costing families to just deal with their basic living expenses, the fact that people's asset values have decreased by an average of 6% or $34,000 per family in this country. The economic data doesn't lie, and that's why I think even though the president is out there trying to put the best face on this, it's not working with the American people because they get it. Inflation's growing at a much faster rate than their wages are, and they're falling farther and farther behind. That's a simple math.
But we did get a report today that the economy expanded at an annual rate in the second quarter of 2.4%. It's expanding a bit more rapidly. I'm not suggesting that Bidenomics is responsible for that, but it's going to weigh on the minds of voters.
Well, look, you want to see the economy growing and expanding. You want to see good-paying jobs being created out there. But it's going to be very hard, I think, Stuart, notwithstanding that, if you've got inflation increasing like it is, and now you've got the Fed just raised interest rates for the 11th time yesterday to the highest rate in 22 years. So people are seeing it on the inflation side. They're seeing it when they buy homes, when they buy cars, all those sorts of things. And I think that's the reality most Americans are dealing with. We all wish well for the economy. We want to see the American people do well. But I think it's hard to see a scenario where more spending, expansion of the regulatory state, higher inflation, higher interest rates actually leads anybody to a better place.
So I'm going to put some headlines on the screen about the heat wave, which actually they're focused on climate change. 2 items from the New York Times, 1 from The Economist. Parts of your state, South Dakota, are under a heat advisory too. Would you describe this as climate change?
Well, I can tell you that it's hot in South Dakota in the summer. It's a reality that we live with. I think we all ought to be doing what we can to reduce the carbon footprint in this country, and South Dakota actually sort of leads the way. 82% of the energy generated in the state of South Dakota is renewable. It's hydro, it's wind. Of course, we're a big state when it comes to biofuel, so I think South Dakota is sort of leading the way and doing our part. But what I would tell you is I think that the climate seems to change. It does change through time. I do believe that on some level at least that human activity probably contributes to that, and we ought to do what we can to try and reduce that, but we ought to do it in a way that doesn't crush the economy and really do great harm to people's daily lives.
Senator Thune, thank you very much for joining us today. I know you're busy. We appreciate you taking time out for us. Thank you, sir.
Always good to be with you. Thanks, Stuart.
Thank you, sir.